Mist clung to the surface of the Blackwater Bay like breath on glass. The war galley dragon's fury slipped through it, oars dipping in steady rhythm. Her prow, carved in the shape of two entwined dragons, cut the gray water toward the mass of stone and smoke that was King's Landing. Seabirds wheeled overhead, their cries thin and sharp. Stannis Baratheon stood at the rail as if rooted there. The wind tugged at his dark cloak, snapping its hem. Salt spray freckled his stern, sallow face. He did not blink. Davos Seaworth came to stand beside him, boots thudding on damp planks. He smelled of tar and sea and onions. The smells of Davos's old life had never quite left him, no matter how many silks Stannis insisted he wear. "There she is," Davos said quietly. "The city that makes and unmakes kings." Stannis grunted. "It will not unmake me." Behind them, Melisandre stood at the base of the mast, red silk wrapped close about her despite the chill, hair loose and bright against the damp air. She watched the city with eyes like polished embers. "The air tastes of fear," she said, "and old sins. This is a place ripe for burning." "Nothing will be burned," Stannis snapped without turning. "Not unless I order it." She smiled faintly. "Of course, my lord. Fire obeys the hand that wields it." The other ships of his small fleet cut the water behind them. 9 more galleys, their sails furled, oars working. They were not enough to cow a city of 500,000 souls, but they were enough to carry word that Stannis Baratheon had left his exile and come to stake his claim. On the long quay, figures were already gathering. Ned Stark stood at the fore, grim in his plain dark cloak, flanked by a few Northmen and men of the city watch. Bannerless, Stannis noted with a sniff. Stark had never been one for pageantry. "A poor reception for a king's heir," Stannis said. "Better than none," Davos replied. "And better than arrows." Stannis's mouth tightened. "If Cersei means to kill me, she will not waste arrows. She'll fill my cup." Davos said nothing. They both knew Stannis had refused wine on the voyage save what Davos tasted first. The galley bumped gently against the quay. Ropes were thrown, hands catching and tying. A gangplank thudded into place. Stannis descended with the care of a man who had been at sea long enough that the stone felt wrong beneath his boots. "Lord Stannis," Ned said, inclining his head. "You came quickly." "I came when the law called me," Stannis said. "You wrote that my brother named me heir. Where is he?" "In the Red Keep," Ned answered. His wound worsened with the fever, then eased. "He is awake. We thought it best not to move him." "Thought?" Stannis repeated, as if the word tasted sour. "I will see him at once." He looked past Ned at the men behind him. The gold cloaks shifted uneasily under his scrutiny. The commander, Janos Slynt, was not present. Good. Stannis had little patience for fat men who sold law by the handful. "Your escort is modest," Stannis observed. His gaze flicked to the Northmen, the tall, hard-eyed men in patched mail, hands on sword hilts. "You trust the city watch?" "I trust that they want to live," Ned said. "Men who want to live can be guided." "Or bought," Stannis said. His eyes narrowed at the sight of Peter Baelish loitering near the back, hands folded, expression placid. "I have read your letter, Stark. I know what's at stake. Let us not waste time on courtesies." He strode up the quay toward the city gate without waiting to be led. Davos fell in beside Ned. "He is glad to see you," the smuggler said quietly. "For Stannis." "I have seen warmer greetings from ice," Ned said. "He has not forgotten Storm's End," Davos replied. "Or being sent to Dragonstone with the taste of salt and siege still in his mouth. That is a wound that never healed." "Robert dealt him an unfair hand," Ned said, watching Stannis's back. "But this is larger than old slights." Davos's eyes went to the looming mass of the Red Keep. "Everything is larger now," he said, "and sharper." Melisandre passed them, walking as if the damp stones did not touch her. Her gaze lingered on Ned a heartbeat longer than courtesy required. "You carry cold with you," she murmured. "The air about you smells of snow and death." I am a Stark, Ned said. We come from a cold place. She smiled, enigmatic. Cold melts before fire, she said. Remember that, Lord Hand. He watched her go with a frown. Varys's murmurs about red priests and strange gods came back to him. In a city already thick with heresy and treason, one more red-robed zealot was the last thing he needed. Come, Ned said to Davos. We'll go up together. Best Stannis hear some things from more than one tongue. And which tongue will he trust? Davos asked. The one that cuts closest to the bone, Ned said. Stannis has always preferred uncomfortable truths to comforting lies. That at least we share. Robert stared at his brother as if at a ghost. Stannis had changed less than he had. The years had thinned his hair and deepened the lines around his mouth, but he still had the same iron stiffness, the same unhappy eyes. Robert felt fat and soft beneath his brother's scrutiny, even through a haze of pain. Well, Robert said at last, you took your time. I came as soon as your hand's letter reached me, Stannis said. Dragonstone is not a day's ride from here, whatever you may think. His gaze flicked to the bandage at Robert's side. You look like death. I feel worse, Robert said. But not so bad I can't still knock your teeth out if you look at me like that. A ghost of something almost like amusement touched Stannis's mouth. It vanished quickly. You should not have gone hunting in your condition, he said. What condition? Robert demanded. Drunk? I've hunted drunk since I could lift a spear. In thrall to a woman who wishes you dead, Stannis said bluntly. Robert's jaw tightened. So Stark's letters told you. Stark's letters confirmed what I have known for years, Stannis replied. Cersei Lannister is a viper. You took her to wife and bared your throat. It was only a matter of time before she struck. The tusk missed, Robert said. I'm not dead yet. She misjudged the amount of wine it takes to kill a Baratheon. Stannis's eyes snapped to Ned. You have the proof? He asked. Of the rest. Ned nodded. The book of lineages. The bastards. The boy in the forge. The others. Jon Arryn died for gathering it. Robert has seen enough to accept the truth. The truth, Stannis said, is that my brother's supposed children are bastards born of incest. He spoke the words without relish, but without hesitation. They must be cast aside. Cersei chained. Jaime stripped of his cloak and head both. The Lannisters made to answer for their treason. Robert shifted against the pillows, wincing. It's always heads with you, isn't it? He muttered. Cut it off. Burn it. Feed it to the dogs. Kings who let treason go unpunished do not stay kings, Stannis said. Ask Aerys. Oh, you cannot. You killed him. Robert's hand flexed as if grasping a remembered hammer. Aerys burned men alive, he said. He deserved what he got. And you, Stannis said, have ruled by drinking and laughing and letting lions creep into your bed. You may not deserve to die, but you have earned this mess. Stannis, Ned said sharply. This is not the time. When is the time? Stannis snapped. After Tywin's banners are in the field? After Joffrey sits that throne with Cersei whispering in his ear and Jaime at his side? You have delayed too long already. Every day you sit in this bed instead of at court gives your enemies more rope to hang you with. Robert glared at him, but there was no real heat in it, only weariness. You came to scold or to help? He asked. I came because the law calls me, Stannis said. By your own hand you have named me heir. That carries duties as well as rights. I will not see the realm left to Lannister whelps or to Renly's pretty dreams. Renly is gone, Ned said. He slipped out 2 nights past with a handful of knights, Loras Tyrell among them. We believe he rides for Highgarden. Stannis's mouth thinned. Of course he does, he said. Trust Renly to grab at a crown the moment he smells one in the air. You are quick to accuse your brothers, Robert growled. For a man who has not set eyes on either of us in years. I wanted Storm's End, Stannis said. You gave it to him. You sent me to Dragonstone with the last of the Dragonlord's leavings. You made me jailer of a dead house while he played at lord in my birthright. Forgive me if I do not weep at the thought that his ambitions may be checked." "This is idle," Ned cut in. "Renly is gone. We cannot retrieve him with words. The danger here is Cersei and her father. The queen already moves to buy the city watch. Tywin massing his men is only a raven away." Stannis rounded on him. "Then we act now," he said. "Today. We have the king. We have his will. We have the hand and the law. We summon the small council and the lords in the city, present the proof, name the children bastards and Cersei traitor, and seize them, while Tywin is still in the west and Renly still on the road." "And if the streets rise?" Ned asked. "If the gold cloaks turn their cloaks? If the small folk see only that their queen and her lovely prince are dragged away by northern traitors and hard-faced lords from Dragonstone? Then we put them down," Stannis said. "Swiftly. Mercy in such matters only breeds more blood." "Spoken like a man who has never had to cut down his own city," Robert muttered. Stannis's eyes flashed. "I held Storm's End through a year's siege while you played heroic on the Trident," he said. "I watched my men eat rats rather than surrender. Do not speak to me of cities." "Enough," Ned said again, more sharply. "You are brothers. You can fight over old wrongs when the realm is safe." "Safe," Stannis echoed. "It will not be safe while Cersei Lannister breathes." Robert sighed, the sound heavy. "You want her head on a spike," he said. "Stark wants her under guard. Cersei wants me dead. Renly wants a crown. Tywin wants the world. And I want a drink." He rubbed his face with one large hand. "Seven hells, I wish Jon Arryn were here. He'd tell us what to do and make us think it was our idea." "Jon is dead," Ned said. "We stand in his place." Robert's gaze softened for a moment as it rested on Ned. He said. "You do." He looked at Stannis. "We'll do as you say. Mostly. We'll move against Cersei, but we do it with some care. I'll not have my city burn because you hunger for heads." Stannis's jaw worked. "Care will cost us," he said. "Everything costs us," Robert replied. "Get Stark his proof. Call the council. Tomorrow we face her together, kings and hand and heir. And if the lions bare their claws, we'll break their teeth." He shifted again, wincing as the wound tugged. "Now get out," he growled. "Both of you, leave me to my pain. It's quieter than you're arguing." Ned and Stannis exchanged a look. It was not friendly, but there was an understanding there. Two hard men bound by the same crumbling duty. "We will be ready," Ned said. "You had best be," Robert replied. "If I drag myself to that throne room and find you've lost your nerve, I'll thrash you both from here to the wall." Cersei chose the place with care. The gallery overlooked the inner ward, its tall, arched windows letting in rivers of light. Lannister crimson and gold hung from the walls. The floor was polished marble, the columns carved with lions. This was her ground, stamped in the colors of her house. Stannis Baratheon seemed out of place here, a dark, unlovely blot in his plain wool. He stood rigid, jaw set, as if braced against a wind only he could feel. "You did not come to pay your respects when I arrived," he said without preamble. "I was nursing a husband," Cersei replied. "I do not have time to bow before every sour-faced brother he dredges up from exile." His mouth tightened. "Dragonstone is not exile. It is a royal seat. It is a dead king's cast-off," she said. "But you would know about leavings." Lancel shifted nervously behind her, the flagon in his hand trembling. Stannis's eyes flicked to him and then away with open contempt. "Do you know why Robert sent you there?" Cersei asked. "Do you know why he gave Storm's End to Renly instead?" "I know why," Stannis said. "Because Robert was weak where he should have been strong and indulgent where he should have been just. He rewarded smiles and songs over duty." She smiled thinly. "And now he tries to correct that by naming you heir. You must be pleased." "I am called to duty, not pleasure," he said. "Your pleasure has brought us to this pass." Cersei's fingers tightened on the stone balustrade. Sunlight warmed her skin, but inside she felt ice. "So Stark has told you his tales," she said. "About my children, about my bed." "He has shown me the book of lineages," Stannis replied. "He has spoken of bastards in the city with my brother's face. He has set forth truths you would prefer stayed buried." "They are not truths," she said. "They are stories, old wives' gossip bound in leather. You cannot unmake a prince with ink." "You unmade a prince when you set your brother in your bed," Stannis said coldly. "When you risked the line and the realm for your own twisted pride." She took a step toward him. "You speak to me of twisted pride?" she hissed. "You, who sulked on your rock because your brother did not give you the castle you wanted. Who nursed your slights like a woman with her griefs, sucking on them year after year." Color rose in his cheeks. "I held Storm's End for your husband when he had already lost the war in his heart," he said. "I ate rats so that he could sit that throne you adorn. Do not lecture me on service." "And now you mean to steal my children's birthright," she said. "To cast them aside as bastards because some northern wolf and a half-dead king say so." "I mean to see the law kept," he answered. "Your children have no more right to that throne than any other bastard in this city. Less, perhaps. They are born of treason as well as adultery." "Say that again," she whispered. He held her gaze. "Treason," he said. "Adultery. Incest. You have shamed your house and your father, not to speak of my brother's crown. For that alone you deserve the rope." Lancel sucked in a breath. The guards behind Cersei shifted, hands tightening on their spear shafts. Cersei's nails dug into her palm until she felt the skin break. "You would hang me?" she asked. "In this city? In this castle? While my father breathes and my son lives." "Your father is 1,000 leagues away," Stannis said. "Your son's claim dies when Robert's will is read. The law stands with me. The hand stands with me. The king stands with me. For once." His eyes were hard as flint. "You have ruled the city on falsehood and fear. That ends." She laughed. The sound startled even her, sharp and bright as broken glass. "You poor, joyless man," she said. "You think men will follow law over gold? Over love? The small folk adore Joffrey. The court fears my father. You and your precious parchment stand between lions and their prey and think ink will hold them." "I do not think ink will hold Tywin Lannister," Stannis said. "I think swords will, and fire, and if need be, blood. I will not shrink from it as Robert has." "Then we understand each other," she said. "You mean to tear down what I have built, to take my children from me, to see me in chains or on a spike." "Yes," he said. There was no triumph in it, no satisfaction, just grim certainty. "Then hear this," she said, stepping still closer, until she could see the flecks of lighter brown in his dark blue eyes. "I will not go quietly. I will not let you or my drunken husband or that northern fool write my children out of the world. If you come for me, come with every sword you have, and pray they are enough." "They will be," Stannis said. She held his gaze a moment longer, then smiled. "We shall see," she said lightly. "Will you take wine, Lord Stannis? It's from the arbor. Far better than the sour Dornish they give my husband." Lancel fumbled the flagon. Stannis's mouth twisted. "I do not drink," he said. "Not in this city." Cersei's smile widened. "Wise," she said. For once, when he was gone, she stood alone in the sunlit gallery, staring out over the ward. From here she could see the glitter of the bay, the ant-like movement of men on the walls, the faint line of smoke rising from Flea Bottom. "Summon my father's men in the city," she told Lancel without turning. "Every Lannister sword, and send for Ser Jaime. Tell him I would speak with him. It seems the time for talk is nearly over." "Yes, your grace," Lancel whispered. Her hand went to the flat of her stomach, as if to shield something that was no longer there. Once, she had thought herself a lioness pacing her cage. Now she felt more like a wolf pressed to a corner. Wolves bit harder when cornered. The hall beneath Casterly Rock smelled of wax and parchment and old stone. Tywin Lannister sat with his back to a carved lion whose onyx eyes watched the hall impassively. Before him, the map of the Seven Kingdoms lay pinned and marked. Tiny stags for Stormland lords, wolves for northern houses, lions clustered thick around the western hills and along the Gold Road. A raven's message lay open beside his hand. The wax seal of his daughter's hand had been broken and laid aside. "Say it again," Kevan Lannister said, frowning down at the spidery letters in the candlelight. "Robert lives." The wound missed his heart. The hand and Stannis both stand in the Red Keep. The will is written naming Stannis heir. He looked up, and Renly has fled with Tyrell knights. "Fled is not the word Cersei uses," Tywin said. His voice was quiet. It was always quiet. Men strained to hear it. "She says he has gone to seek his own crown." Kevan made a small sound. "Madness," he said. "Ambition," Tywin corrected. "Madness is only ambition without power. Give Renly enough swords and gold, and men will call him brave instead of mad." He curled one long finger around a small golden lion and moved it from the rock toward the Riverlands. "Robert should have died," Kevan said, voicing what they both thought. "The Boar should have killed him. With the king dead and Joffrey crowned, we could have managed Stark. Or removed him. With Robert alive." "With Robert alive," Tywin said. "We have a king who has finally been forced to look at the mess he has made. Stark will press him. Stannis will bully him. Between them, they will tear the veil off Cersei's sins and wave them before the court." Kevan shifted. "You think they will name the children bastards openly?" Tywin's lip barely moved. "If they have any sense. And if they do not, Stannis will shove the words down their throats until they choke." "Could we quiet it?" Kevan asked. "Remove Stark. Poison Stannis. There are ways." "Poisoning Stannis would be like trying to drown a stone," Tywin said. "He will expect it. As for Stark," he let the thought trail off. "Killing the hand once may be called misfortune. Killing two begins to look deliberate." Kevan's mouth tightened. Jon Arryn's death sat uneasily on all their consciences, whether they named it so or not. "And Cersei," Kevan ventured. "She writes as if staking a claim. She demands men. Coin. She says she will not allow her children to be cast aside." "Of course she will not," Tywin said. "She is my daughter." He picked up a tiny stag from the reach and rolled it between his fingers. "She has always misunderstood the difference between will and power." "What will you do, brother?" Kevan asked. "What I must," Tywin said. "What I have always done. Protect the interests of this house." He placed the lion on the border of the Riverlands. Another joined it, then another. "Gregor Clegane and his ilk have long thirsted for new fields to trample," he said. "We will give them the trident. They will raid and burn and rape and call it righteous vengeance for some imagined slight. The Tullus will scream to the crown for aid." "And if the crown answers?" Kevan asked. "Then we will see who rides," Tywin said. "If Robert and Stark send men, we will know they mean to treat us as enemies. If they hesitate, if they send letters instead of swords, we will know they are already divided." "And if they do nothing?" Kevan asked. "Then the Riverlands bleed and remember who failed them," Tywin said. "I may yet be their savior if fortune turns." He looked up at the lion behind him, as if asking some silent question. "Send for Ser Gregor," he said, "and for Amory Lorch, Polliver, men who understand what it is to make a message out of blood." Kevan grimaced. "The realm will howl." "The realm has a short memory," Tywin said. "They howled when Aerys burned Rickard Stark and Brandon, did they not? They cried out when he roasted men alive. Then Robert put a hammer through his chest, and they cheered. Give them a new villain, and they will forget the last in a fortnight." He looked at the letter again. "Cersei has overplayed her hand," he said. "She should have waited. Let the Boar kill Robert cleanly, then moved quickly before Stark or Stannis could gather themselves." Now she has a wounded king with a sudden taste for justice and 2 brothers with better claims than her children. His voice stayed calm, but there was iron in it. I will not throw the full strength of the West into a losing game. You would abandon her? Kevin asked, startled despite himself. I will not abandon my grandchildren, Tywin said, but I will not ride blind into a trap of her making. We will act at the margins, bleed the Riverlands, rattle the crown. If Stark and Stannis prove weak, we press. If they prove strong, he shrugged. We bide our time. And the city? Kevin asked. If they move against Cersei? Tywin's eyes were cold. Then she must be clever enough to survive until my banners can change the nature of the board, he said. I taught her better than to play without an escape. He rose, the motion smooth. Send the ravens, he said, to Gregor, to our bannermen, and another to Cersei. Tell her this. Lions do not roar at every shadow. They roar when it profits them. Until then, they watch. Kevin nodded and went. Tywin lingered a moment over the map, fingers resting lightly on King's Landing. Do not fail me, daughter, he murmured. I can lose a king. I cannot afford to lose a dynasty. The hand's solar smelled of tallow and parchment and the faint, ever-present tang of the sea drifting in through the narrow window. Ned and Stannis bent over the table as if it were a campaign map before a siege. In truth, it was. The Red Keep and the city about it were their battlefield. The pins that marked gates and barracks and key halls might as well have been towers and trenches. We strike at dawn, Stannis said. The Queen will expect us to move while the court is full, when she can play to the crowd. We will deny her that. We go to the throne room with the king, my claim, and your proof. We present the charge and seize her before she can rally. She will have her Lannister guards, Ned said. And the King's Guard. Jaime Lannister will not yield her easily. Barristan Selmy will, Stannis said. He is sworn to the king, not the queen. So are the others, at least in name. Jaime's oath is already broken. That makes him easier to kill. Men who have forsaken honor once will think twice before testing it again. Ned's fingers moved across the map, tapping the points he had marked earlier. We bring our men from the north, he said. 200 in the yard under arms already at my command. Another 40 men of the Vale from Yon Royce and the other knights who came south with my wife. They will be here. He touched the spaces behind the throne, the side doors, the great hall. And the gold cloaks? Davos asked. Janos Slynt has pledged 500, Ned said. Baelish arranged the coin. Whether they are pledged to me, to him, or to their own purses is another question. Coin is a stronger oath than words for such men, Stannis said. But they have Lannister coin as well, do they not? Ned grimaced. I suspect so. Cersei summoned Slynt after we did. Stannis snorted. Then he will take what he can get from both and follow whichever side looks strongest when the swords come out. Such men are dangerous, Davos said. They tip scales at the worst moments. That is why we arrange it so that tipping the scales in our favor looks safest, Stannis said. We make our show strong. We bring the king. He tapped the circle representing the throne. If Robert sits in judgment, crown on his head, even Slynt will hesitate to turn coat. The maesters do not want him moved, Ned said. The wound is deep. The fever bites again at night. He is Robert Baratheon, Stannis said. He has marched bleeding before. He can sit a horse for the length of a hall, or be carried if need be. He need only speak the words once. After that, the law will stand. Ned's gaze went to the chest of documents. Within lay Robert's will naming Stannis heir, the copy Ned had made, the book of lineages, the letters to Dragonstone and Highgarden. Ink instead of iron, but sharp in their way. There is another matter, Ned said slowly. Varys. What of him? Stannis asked. He's a spider. We know this. He has been whispering with men across the sea, Ned said. Arya overheard him with a Pentoshi merchant, Illyrio Mopatus. They spoke of dragons and of replacing one king with another when the time is right. They spoke of me as a wolf to be crushed between lion and stag. Stannis's mouth twisted. You trust your daughter's eavesdropping more than a eunuch's self-serving denials, he said. For once, your sentiment may serve you. I do not trust Varys, Ned said, but I cannot yet move against him without more than my daughter's word. The court would say I strike down the king's servants on a child's tale. Then we do not move against him tomorrow, Stannis said. One war at a time. Lannisters first, spiders later. Ned nodded reluctantly. Davos shifted his weight. This red woman, he said. Melisandre. She unsettles the men. They say she looks at them as if she sees their deaths. Stannis's jaw clenched. She will not be in the throne room, he said. This is a matter of law, not fires and gods. She is useful, but not to be paraded before southern lords who already think me half-mad for listening to her at all. That will not be the only thing they think you half-mad for, Davos murmured under his breath. Stannis shot him a look, but did not rebuke him. You will stand with Stark, he said instead. At the king's right hand, men will look at you and see a smuggler raised high. They will remember that I reward loyalty, not birth. And they will remember that you have few highborn friends, Davos said. Better a handful of true men than a hall full of false ones. Ned straightened, rubbing at the stiffness in his neck. I will speak to Robert again, he said. He must understand how precarious this is. If he wavers, he cannot waver, Stannis said. He has done that for 15 years. Look where it brought us. He is your brother, Ned said. He is my king, Stannis replied. And if he fails in that, I will be his judge. The words hung in the air, stark as any northern winter. Ned thought of Robert's hand on his forearm, fever-hot, the desperate plea in his eyes. He thought of Lyanna, of promises half-kept and broken. Very well, he said. Dawn, then. Dawn, Stannis agreed. Davos glanced at the window, where the night pressed blackly against the glass. Storm is coming, he said. It has been coming for years, Ned replied. We only hear the thunder now. They will not go quietly, Varys said. Ned watched him the way a man watched a snake. Not from fear, though he would have been a fool not to feel some of that, but from respect for the creature's nature. Cersei has gathered her wits and her men. Varys went on. Lannister guards stand double watch at Maegor's Holdfast. Jaime Lannister has barely left his sister's side. The Queen has sent messages to every lord and captain still in the city. And you know this how? Ned asked. Varys spread his hands. Men talk, he said. Women talk. Children talk. I listen. It is what I do. You listened when Jon Arryn died, Ned said. You listened when the king nearly died on a boar's tusk. You listened when my daughter overheard you plotting with Illyrio Mopatis about replacing one king with another. A flicker crossed Varys's face. Surprise quickly smoothed away. Children have such nimble feet, he said, and such inconvenient ears. They have clear eyes as well, Ned said. Arya had no reason to invent dragons and merchants from Pentos. You speak of replacing kings as if you were moving casks of wine from one cellar to another. Varys's lips thinned. I speak of survival, he said. Of the realms, not mine. The realm did not ask you to appoint yourself its savior, Ned said. And did it ask you? Varys countered. Or Stannis, or Cersei, or any of us. Men take up crowns and swords and hands chains because they wish to. The realm either survives their rule or it does not. I try to give it a fighting chance. By what? Ned asked. By setting wolves and lions and stags at each other until the weakest falls where you wish? By making sure the last beast standing is not the maddest, Varys said. We have seen what madness on a throne looks like. I would avoid it a second time. Is that why you whisper of dragons? Ned asked. Targaryen princesses across the sea? Varys's gaze held his. There are many fires smoldering in the world, he said. Some will burst into flame whether we blow on them or not. I merely monitor the smoke. Ned's patience thinned. If you know so much of smoke and flame, then answer me this. What will the Lannisters do when we move against Cersei tomorrow? They will fight, Varys said simply. Tywin's daughter does not bend. Jaime will not stand idle while his sister is taken in chains. The gold cloaks will be torn. Some will follow you. Some will follow Slynt. Some will follow whomever they think will still be paying them tomorrow. And you? Ned asked. I will do as I have always done, Varys said. I will try to minimize the bloodshed. You can do that now, Ned said. Tell me what Janos Slynt intends. Tell me whether Littlefinger's gold holds him more tightly than Cersei's threats. Varys sighed. Slynt intends to keep his options open, he said. He has taken from both purses. He will look at the king and at your northern men and at Stannis and at the queen and at Jaime Lannister. He will wait as long as he dares to see which way the tide runs. Then he will shout for the king and pretend it was what he meant all along. That tells me nothing I could not guess, Ned said. It tells you that when the moment comes, Varys said, you must make your side look like the safe one. That means no half measures, no show of uncertainty. If Robert falters, if Stannis snarls and threatens but does not strike, if you step back from your own proof, Slynt will smell weakness and scuttle to Cersei like the rat he is. Ned's jaw clenched. What would you have me do? He asked. Turn the throne room into a slaughterhouse? Fill the floor with blood, so that the city can see who holds the sharpest knives. I would have you choose your enemies carefully, Varys said, and your allies even more so. Stannis Baratheon is a hard man. Hard men break things. Sometimes that is necessary. Sometimes it leaves nothing left to rule. If you tie yourself to him entirely, you may regret it when his justice falls on necks you did not intend to offer. Cersei will not relent, Ned said. Tywin will not. Renly has already fled. There are no gentle choices left. No, Varys agreed softly. There are not. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Lord Stark, he said, you are an honorable man. That is both your shield and your weakness. When you stand before the court, you will be tempted to lay out every truth you have, as if facts alone could hold back a Lannister charge. Sometimes, it is wiser to keep some truths in your pocket, to use them when the realm is ready to hear them. You would have me lie, Ned said. I would have you live, Varys replied. A live wolf can still bite. A dead one is just a pelt on some lord's floor. Ned stared at him, then shook his head. I will not twist the law to suit convenience, he said. If we fall because we did what was right, then so be it. Varys studied him for a moment, then inclined his head in something that was not quite respect, but close. Very well, he said. I have warned you. When the shouting starts, remember this. The small folk do not care whose name is carved over the door of the throne room. They care whether their children eat and whether soldiers rape their daughters. If your choices tomorrow spare them, you will have done more for the realm than any dragon ever did. And if they do not? Ned asked. Then we will count the cost, Varys said. As we always do. He slipped away into the deeper shadows. Ned stood a moment longer, feeling the weight of steel that was not yet drawn. Then he turned toward the heavy doors to the throne room. Tomorrow, then, he murmured. Let it come. Janos Slynt had never much liked choices. Orders were simple. A man told you to do a thing, you did it, and if it went wrong, you could always say you were only following orders. Choices were trickier. Choices meant blame. Now he stood in the armory of the City Watch with a purse of Stark gold in one hand and a purse of Lannister gold in the other, and knew that whatever he chose would haunt him to his grave. His captains waited, armor half donned, cloaks folded over their arms. Men he had drunk with, cheated with, broken bread with. Men who had wives and brats in Flea Bottom, mothers in the Riverlands, cousins in the Reach. What is it to be, M-Lord? One of them asked. Tragar, a bull-necked man from Crackclaw Point. We marching with them Northmen, or standing by the Queen? We stand by the King, Slynt said automatically. And which one's that? Another captain asked. The one bleeding in his bed? The one from Dragonstone? The pretty boy that likes to watch cats burned? A few of the men chuckled uneasily. Slynt glared at them. "Mind your tongues," he snapped. "You talk like that in the wrong ear, you'll find your heads on spikes." "We might find 'em there anyway," Traegar muttered. Slynt dropped the purses on the table. The coins clinked dully. "Listen," he said, "I'm not fool enough to think we can stand aside. When lords fight, they always want the watch on one side or the other. We've got offers from both. The hand says we're to guard the king's will and the law. The queen says we're to guard her and the prince. Stark's got his Northmen. Lannister's got their red cloaks. Us, we've got the city. And our families," one captain said. "If we pick wrong." Slynt knew what he meant. He had seen what happened when the wrong men lost. Houses burned, women taken, children vanished. The winners always talked of justice. The losers always called it murder. "We do what we've always done," Slynt said slowly. "We keep order. When the hand calls, we answer. When the queen calls, we answer. But when steel comes out..." He weighed the thought carefully. "When steel comes out, we shout loud and clear who we're for, so no one can say we're on the wrong side." "And who will that be?" Traegar asked. Slynt hesitated. In his mind, he saw Cersei Lannister's green eyes, cold as winter. He heard her voice, soft and deadly, speaking of children's throats. He saw Lord Stark's hard mouth, heard Baelish's lazy promise of more coin. "Whichever side looks to win," he said at last. "We're not lords. We're not sworn to one house or another. We serve the city. A dead commander can't do that." "That's no answer," Traegar growled. "It's the only answer that keeps most of you breathing," Slynt snapped. "You watch tomorrow. You keep your lads tight. When I give the word, you echo it. If I shout for the king, you shout with me." "Which king?" Someone muttered. "The one sitting the bloody throne," Slynt said. "Who else?" "Robert if he's there. Stannis if the old boar drops dead in front of us. We're not maesters to argue over ink and seals. We follow who sits that chair and hope he doesn't decide to hang us for breathing wrong." He looked at the purses on the table. Gold glinted in the lamplight, yellow and red. "Split 'em," he said to Traegar. "One purse for each captain. Tell your men they're being paid to stand firm. No running. No changing sides on their own. Orders come from me. They do what they're told, or they'll wish they died tomorrow instead." "And you, M-Lord?" Traegar asked. "Who'll you listen to?" Slynt thought of his narrow house, of his wife's soft snore, of his daughter's laughter. He thought of lions and wolves and stags and dragons, all the beasts that prowled around the city with crowns in their eyes. "I'll listen to whoever still has the most swords drawn when the shouting stops," he said quietly. "Now get to your posts. Dawn's not far." As they filed out, each with his share of the coin, Slynt scooped up a single golden dragon left on the table and turned it between his fingers. "Just a man doing his duty," he told the silent room. "That's all." The coin glittered back at him, indifferent. The throne room felt colder than the yard. Dawn light slanted through the tall, narrow windows, painting bright bars on the stone floor. Dust motes swam in it, disturbed by the slow movement of men and cloaks. The Iron Throne crouched at the far end, all twisted steel and jagged edges, but Robert did not climb it. They had set the same carved chair before it as on the day of his council, though this time they had draped it in black and gold, not white fur. He wore a tunic of black velvet slashed with gold, the crowned stag picked out in thread over his heart. The bandage at his side was hidden under the cloth, but every breath reminded him it was there. Stannis stood to his right, stern and silent, a dark pillar. Ned Stark stood to his left, the scroll bearing Robert's will in his hands. Behind them, a knot of Northmen and Stannis's own men waited, faces grim. Cersei Lannister approached down the hall with her children and her guards as if this were any other court day. Her gown was a deep green that made her hair blaze where the light caught it. Joffrey walked beside her, chin high, in a crimson doublet with a lion rampant. Tommen and Myrcella trailed behind, eyes wide. The Kingsguard flanked them. Barristan Selmy in white and steel, Jaime in shining armor that fit him like a second skin, the others in polished plate. Behind, a file of Lannister guards in red cloaks took up position near the base of the throne steps. Along the walls, gold cloaks stood in disciplined ranks. Janos Slynt had positioned them evenly, neat lines of yellow against gray stone. They might as well have been statues, for all the emotion their faces showed. Robert saw the tension in their shoulders, smelled the fear under the polish. "Your Grace," Cersei said, stopping at the foot of the steps, exactly as she always had. "You look well. You look like you've slept," Robert said. "I'm surprised. Worry makes for poor rest," she said. "But I find I am calmer now that I see you on your feet." Her gaze flicked, just once, to the men behind him. "Though perhaps you should still be Abed." "Sit," Robert said. "We have business." She did not sit. Neither did anyone else. The hall filled with the susurrus of cloth, the faint creak of leather, the collective holding of breath. Lords and ladies who had been summoned as witnesses, Renford Ricker, Old Lord Stokeworth, a clutch of lesser courtiers, shifted uncomfortably. Ned unrolled the scroll. The sound cracked through the hall like a whip. "This council is convened," he said, his voice carrying in the great space, "to hear the king's will and to settle matters of succession and treason in the sight of gods and men." "Treason," Cersei repeated. "You presume much, Lord Stark." "I presume nothing," Ned said. "I bring proof." He gestured. A servant stepped forward with the heavy book of lineages. Ned opened it, flipping to the page he had marked. "For 300 years, he said, the blood of kings has been recorded here. Hair, eyes, marriages, issue. Black of hair follows black of hair in House Baratheon, even when wed to fair brides. Stefan, Robert, Stannis, Renly, their bastards in the city and beyond, born of women with hair of brown and yellow and red, all black of hair." He let his gaze sweep the hall. "And yet, in this generation, with a black-haired king and a golden-haired queen, every royal child is born with hair of gold." Cersei's lips parted in a smile that did not touch her eyes. "You read well, Lord Stark," she said. "Perhaps you missed your calling as a maester." Murmurs rippled through the court. Joffrey's face flushed an angry red. "Mind your tongue," the boy snapped. "You speak of your future king." "Be silent, Joffrey," Robert said. For once, the boy obeyed, though his jaw clenched. Ned closed the book with a soft thump. "Jon Arryn saw the truth and died for it," he said. "The king sees it now. So does Lord Stannis. The children born of Jaime and Cersei Lannister's sin are not of Baratheon blood. They have no claim to the Iron Throne." The hall exploded with noise, cries of impossible and shame, and "Seven save us" mingled with gasps and harsh laughter. Someone near the back shouted "liar" and was quickly hushed. Barristan Selmy stood like a statue, eyes fixed on some point beyond them all. Joffrey stepped forward, eyes blazing. "How dare you?" he shouted. "My mother is a queen. My father. Your father is standing before you," Stannis said, his voice like iron on stone. "And he names you what you are, a bastard born of treachery." Jaime's hand went to his sword hilt. Steel rasped as it left the scabbard an inch. "Say that again," he said softly. "Draw that sword and I will have your other hand," Stannis said. "Enough," Robert roared. The sound crashed down on them all, loud as thunder. The hall fell abruptly silent. Robert pushed himself up from the chair. Pain flared in his side, but he ignored it, drawing himself to his full, if diminished height. "I have been a fool," he said. His voice carried, rough but clear. "Blind. I let myself be led by wine and lust and laziness. I did not see what was under my nose. Stark has put a book in my hands. Stannis has put questions in my head. I have done the sums. I do not like them." He looked down at Cersei. "You betrayed our marriage bed," he said. "You spat on my line. You raised another man's spawn and named them mine. That is treason as well as adultery. For that you should die." Gasps echoed. Cersei's face was very still. "And will you kill me?" she asked. "Here? Before the court? Before our children?" "Yes," Robert said simply. "If I must." He gestured to Ned. "Read it." Ned lifted the scroll. "By the will of Robert of House Baratheon, first of his name," he intoned, "King of the Undulls and the Rhoynar and the First Men, Lord of the Seven Kingdoms and Protector of the Realm, it is declared that Stannis of House Baratheon, Lord of Dragonstone, is his lawful he, heir, and shall follow him upon the Iron Throne at his death or incapacity. Further, that Eddard of House Stark, Lord of Winterfell and Hand of the King, is empowered to act as regent and protector of the realm until such time as Lord Stannis takes up those duties." He rolled the scroll partially, revealing the lower lines. "It is also commanded," he continued, "that Cersei of House Lannister is to be deprived of all offices and powers and held under guard to answer for her crimes, and that the children Joffrey, Myrcella, and Tommen, styled Baratheon, are to be removed from her custody and held as wards of the crown pending judgment." "Enough," Cersei said. Her voice cut through the hall, clear and cold. "You think words on paper can unmake a queen?" she asked. "You think ink can turn my children into bastards?" Her eyes swept the gold cloaks along the walls, then the Lannister guards, then the courtiers packed against the columns. "Lords of Westeros," she said, "you have all seen my children, held them, sworn oaths to them. Will you stand by while a drunken king and two bitter men strip them of their names?" Silence answered, but it was a charged silence. Men's eyes darted, weighing futures. "Janos Slynt," Robert said, "commander of the City Watch." Slynt stiffened. "Hear your grace," he said. "You and your men will see the queen and her children placed under guard," Robert said. "Gently if they go quietly. If not—" His jaw tightened. "You have your orders." Slynt swallowed. "As you say, your grace." He turned to his men. "For the king," he shouted. "For the king!" The gold cloaks roared back. Steel hissed from scabbards. And then, almost as one, a third of the gold cloaks pivoted. Their spear points and sword tips swung away from the Lannister guards and toward the knot of Northmen and Dragonstone men behind the throne. For a heartbeat, the hall held its breath. Then Janos Slynt pointed at Ned Stark and Stannis Baratheon. "Seize them," he bellowed. "Protect the queen and the prince." Chaos exploded like a dropped torch in dry straw. Arya had not meant to be there. She had followed Sansa, who had followed Septa Mordain, who had dragged them both to the gallery above the throne room with talk of historic moments and proper comportment. Sansa had been radiant with excitement, eyes shining at the thought of seeing Joffrey crowned, or at least named heir properly. Now Sansa stood frozen, one hand clamped over her mouth. Arya felt as if her heart had climbed into her throat and was trying to claw its way out. Below them, the hall was a nightmare. Gold cloaks surged like a breaking wave, half turning on their fellows, some confused, some committed. Northmen bellowed war cries, drawing swords with the easy speed of men who had lived their lives with a blade never far. Stannis' men from Dragonstone closed ranks around their lord, shields up, faces grim. Ned Stark moved before the first spear reached them, sword leaping into his hand as if it had been waiting there all along. The sound of metal meeting metal rang against the stone. "Father," Sansa whispered. Jaime Lannister came to life like a drawn bowstring released. He vaulted the few steps between him and Ned with a fluidity that made Arya's teeth clench. His sword sang free, gold and steel flashing. "Lord Stark," he called, laughter in his voice. "Shall we dance as we did not on the trident?" Ned met him, their blades clashing. For a moment, Arya forgot her fear in the sheer, brutal beauty of it. Jaime moved like water over stone, all smooth curves and sudden strikes. Her father was slower, bulkier, but his every cut was economical, every parry solid. Around them, men screamed. A gold cloak thrust his spear at Stannis' chest, only to have it knocked aside by Davos, who swung a borrowed sword with the desperate ferocity of a man who had not expected to die in a southern court that day. The spear glanced off Stannis's breastplate. Stannis drove his own blade forward, and the man went down with a gurgle. "Traitors!" someone shouted. It was impossible to tell who. Cersei had retreated up the steps. Children pressed around her, Lannister guards forming a shield wall at the base. Her face was pale, eyes wide. Not with fear, Arya thought, but with a furious sort of concentration, as if she were willing the battle into the shape she desired. Joffrey clung to her skirts, face contorted. His hand went to the dagger at his belt, then dropped. He looked up at the chaos with horror, and something uglier mingled. Sandor Clegane, the Hound, moved ahead of them, great sword in hand. His burned face twisted in a snarl as he waded into the fray, hacking at any man in his path, gold cloak or no. "Stay behind me," he snarled over his shoulder to the princeling. "If you want to keep that pretty head, boy." Robert swore and pushed himself up from the chair. The motion tore at his wound. Arya saw the sudden bloom of red through the black velvet. He staggered, catching himself on the armrest. "Robert, sit," Ned shouted between blows. "You'll tear yourself open." "I'll be damned if I watch from a chair while bastards steal my hall," Robert roared back. He reached for a weapon. His hammer was not there. Some cautious soul had thought it unseemly or unsafe to bring it into the hall. His hand found instead the sword that had been laid across the arm of the Iron Throne behind him as a ceremonial gesture. He seized it, wheeled, and nearly collapsed as a spear thrust for him. Barristan Selmy appeared between the spear and the king like a ghost. His white cloak flared as he stepped, his blade flicking out. The spear tip went skidding away, its owner clutching a suddenly bloodied hand. "For the king," Barristan barked. "Not the queen. The king." Some of the gold cloaks hesitated. Others doubled down. Arya saw one of them, a wiry man with a scar down his cheek, look from Robert to Cersei, and then smash the butt of his spear into the back of another gold cloak who had turned on Stannis's men. "Hold, you fools!" he shouted. "We're all for Robert. The rest can hang." No one heard him. Near the center of the hall, Ned slipped. Jaime's sword came in low, a sudden twist of his wrist. Ned's boot caught on a fallen body, sliding in blood. He went to one knee as the Kingslayer's blade swept toward his exposed side. Arya's breath caught. She did not realize she had made a sound until Sansa grabbed her arm. A northern man, Jory Castle, Arya realized with a lurch, threw himself between them. Jaime's stroke took him high, cutting deep into his neck. Blood sprayed, hot and bright. Jory fell without a sound. Ned came up from his knee in the same motion, fury in every line of him. His sword crashed against Jaime's with such force that the Golden Knight staggered. "You shouldn't have done that," Jaime snarled. "You shouldn't have touched my man," Ned answered. Slynt was shouting something, his voice cracking. "For the queen! For the queen!" Some gold cloaks echoed him. Others bellowed Robert's name instead. The line between them fractured and danced, men pressing and yielding, killing and dying sometimes without knowing for whom. Up on the gallery, Septa Mordane was praying under her breath, clutching at Sansa's shaking hand. Arya's fingers closed around the pommel of needle at her hip. It was a comfort just to feel the leather. "Stay back," the Septa hissed. "Sweetlings, stay back from the railing." Arya ignored her. Her eyes tracked her father, the way Syrio had taught her to track a cat. One of Stannis's men went down with a spear in his gut. Davos hauled him back by the collar, swinging his sword one-handed, cursing in some shipman's cant that made Arya's ears burn. Another Northman took the fallen man's place in the line. "Stark," Stannis shouted. "We must reach the king." "I see him," Ned grunted. Robert was in motion now, every step a labor. He shoved a gold cloak aside with a snarl, his sword arcing down to split the helm of a man who had been pressing Stannis's flank. "Take." A blow jarred his wounded side. Arya saw him flinch, but he did not stop. "For 15 years I let you all play at kings and queens and coins," he thundered. No more. Any man who raises steel against my hand or my heir dies. Somewhere in the chaos, someone heard him. Arya saw one gold cloak freeze, his spear half thrust, then slowly lower it. But others saw only Cersei, pale and proud upon the steps, and Janos Slynt, red-faced and shouting. The throne room was a storm, and its eye was about to burst. Jaime pressed hard. Steel rang in Ned's bones as he parried, their blades a blur. Jaime fought with a grace that made the clash almost seem like a dance, if dances left men dead on the floor. You're slower than I expected, Jaime taunted, swords grinding together. Must be all that snow freezes a man's joints. Or perhaps I'm simply old, Ned said through his teeth, and tired of lions who break oaths. He twisted. Jaime's sword slid off his, narrowly missing his arm. Ned stepped in, shoulder to shoulder, driving his weight into the younger man. For an instant, they were close enough to smell each other's sweat. You're tired of a great many things, Jaime said. So am I. He shoved back, faster than Ned could retreat, and his knee slammed into Ned's wounded leg, the one that had never fully mended after the rebellion. Pain flared. Ned staggered. Jaime's blade came up, ready to strike. A mailed arm swept between them. Stannis Baratheon shouldered Jaime aside with the blunt, uncompromising force of a battering ram. His own sword came up in a brutal cut that Jaime barely caught on his parry. "Kingslayer," Stannis said, "I have waited a long time to see if you can kill a king face to face." "Careful," Jaime said, grinning despite the narrowness of his escape. "If I slay you as well, I might have a new name. Kingslayer twice over." Stannis answered with an attack that had none of Jaime's flourish, only raw, remorseless pressure. His blows hammered at Jaime's guard, each strike a test of tendon and bone. Ned caught his breath, shifting his weight off his bad leg. Blood from some other man's wound slicked the floor beneath him. He had nearly gone down in it. He pivoted, putting his shoulder to the press of bodies, and saw Robert. The king was halfway between his chair and the steps leading to the throne, ringed by a tightening knot of enemies and allies. Barristan Selmy held his left flank, white cloak streaked with red, moving with lethal economy. Around them, Northmen and Dragonstone men fought shoulder to shoulder, their line bending but not yet breaking. "Stark," Robert bellowed, "get that parchment out of here. If they want my head, they'll not have my seal besides." Ned's hand went reflexively to the inside of his doublet where the copy of the will lay, warm against his chest. "If I leave you," he began, "then I die with a sword in my hand instead of ink on my fingers," Robert snarled. He drove his sword into a gold cloak's middle, wrenching it free in a spray of blood. "I'll take the trade. Go!" Two gold cloaks lunged for Ned as he turned. One he parried, the other he dodged, letting the man's momentum carry him past. A Northman's axe took that one in the back of the neck. Ned did not stop to see him fall. The great doors of the throne room loomed at the far end. If he could reach them, if he could get the will into safe hands, then even if they all died here, the law might yet outlive them. Something slammed into his side. He hit the floor hard, air blasting from his lungs. His sword skittered away with a metallic clatter. Above him, Janos Slynt loomed, sweaty face twisted, spear poised. "Sorry, M-Lord Hand," Slynt panted. "Nothing personal." Ned twisted, the spearhead scraping his mail instead of his throat. He grabbed the shaft, yanking. Slynt stumbled. The spear jerked down. It but struck Ned's chest with bruising force. A shadow fell over them both. Barristan Selmy's sword came down with merciless precision, severing the spear a handspan above Ned's fists. Slynt gaped at the sudden emptiness in his hands. "Lord Commander," he began. Barristan's gauntlet fist caught him under the jaw. Bone crunched. Slynt went over backward, hitting the stone with a thud that made his teeth rattle. The old knight did not spare him another glance. "For the king," Barristan said, offering Ned his hand. Ned took it, hauling himself up. Pain flared in his leg and shoulder, but he was breathing. He scanned the hall. Stannis and Jaime still traded blows near the base of the steps, their fight drifting closer to the Lannister shield wall that guarded Cersei and the children. Joffrey's face was white and furious. Myrcella clung to her mother's skirts. Tommen sobbed openly. On the periphery, Arya saw Ser Aerys Oakheart of the Kingsguard standing uncertain, his sword drawn but his eyes torn between Robert and Cersei. Another white cloak had already committed. Meryn Trant hacked at a Northman with gusto, heedless of which side he was meant to serve. The gold cloaks writhed like a wounded thing. Some had fallen in clusters where Northmen and Dragonstone men held their ground. Others had turned upon their fellows, confusion spiraling outward in a widening gyre of blood. "Eddard!" Stannis shouted over the clash. "The children! Take them now, while Lannister bleeds!" Ned saw what he meant. Jaime's attention was fully on Stannis. The Lannister shield wall was focused on protecting Cersei from the chaos in front of them. For a heartbeat, a slender path existed along the side of the hall, narrow, but there. "If we seize them," Ned said to Barristan, "Tywin will come with fire and steel. If we do not," Barristan said, eyes sweeping the carnage, "this will all have been for nothing." Robert heard them. His gaze flicked from Stannis to Ned to the cowering figures behind the shields. Blood stained his teeth when he grinned. "Take the brats," he rasped. "I'll keep anyone from following." "Barristan." "I am yours, your grace," Barristan said at once. "Go with Stark," Robert said. "Show these fools where true oaths lie." Barristan's jaw tightened. "As you command." He turned without hesitation and started toward the steps at Ned's side. Cersei saw them coming. Her eyes widened. Her lips thinned to a bloodless line. "Jaime!" she screamed. For all his focus on Stannis, Jaime heard. He disengaged with a feint and a sudden, acrobatic leap backward that only years in armor could end. "It look easy." Stannis's blade hissed through the space where his head had been an instant before. Jaime hit the steps on a roll, came up in front of Cersei and the children, and slammed his sword against a Lannister shield. "Lock tight," he shouted. No one through. The Lannister guards braced, spears out. Barristan and Ned checked their advance, shields raised. For a heartbeat that seemed to stretch, the two lines faced each other. Behind Ned, he could feel the surge and ebb of the battle. Ahead, the unmoving wall of lion red and gold. "If you lower your spears," Ned said, voice carrying just enough, "your lives will be spared. The queen and the children will be treated gently. This need not end in more blood." Jaime laughed. "You're in the wrong city for that, Stark," he said. "This is King's Landing. Everything ends in blood." Steel rang again. The moment broke, and the wolf and the lion crashed together beneath the shadow of the Iron Throne. The first clash was madness. The second had shape. Once the initial treachery broke, the chaos fractured into lines, crude but real. On one side, Northmen and Dragonstone men and a knot of gold cloaks who had chosen the king's roaring voice over Janos Slynt's barking. On the other, Lannister guards and those city watchmen who smelled lion gold more strongly than royal wrath. Men went down and were trampled as the tides shifted. Stannis fought like a wedge of iron. He had none of Jaime's elegance, none of Ned's soldierly grace, but every stroke was driven by a relentless, grinding force that pushed the Kingslayer back step by step. Jaime yielded ground with a smile that grew tighter with each parry. "You hit like a smith," Jaime panted. "I held Storm's End on rats and boots," Stannis rasped. "You held a king's throat to your sword. We all have our talents." Their blades met again, sparks flying. Ned's world narrowed to the circle of his sword. He moved at Robert's side now, Barristan on the other flank, the three of them a battered hammer driving a narrow path through the melee. Blood slicked the flagstones underfoot, turning each step treacherous. His shoulder burned where someone's blade had glanced off his mail. His leg throbbed with each shift of weight. "Keep moving," Barristan said, voice calm as if they were at practice. His sword flicked out, disarming one man, gutting another. "If we let them pin us here..." They'll drown us in our own hall, Robert finished. He lunged, stabbing a gold cloak who had raised his spear toward Ned's exposed side. Not today. Janos Slynt was trying to shout orders, but the din swallowed his commands. He had lost his spear. One hand was clamped to his jaw where Barristan's earlier blow had landed. Blood leaked between his fingers as he bellowed. "Protect the queen. Protect the prince," he croaked. "For the queen." Some of the gold cloaks obeyed. Others, glancing between Robert's bloodied fury and Cersei's pale, set face on the steps, hesitated. A few shifted back toward neutrality, turning their spears outward to keep both sides from pressing too close. They were swept aside anyway. "Back!" one of the Lannister sergeants roared. "Back to the Holdfast! To Maegor's!" The lion wall began to move. Slowly, shield still locked, the red and gold line fell back up the steps. Cersei was swallowed within it, children pressed behind her. Joffrey twisted to look back over his shoulder, eyes wide and wild, as if memorizing every face that raised steel against him. "Jaime!" Cersei shouted again. Jaime heard. Whatever else could be said of him, he heard his sister's voice across any battlefield. He disengaged from Stannis with a sudden flurry, blades ringing, and leapt backward up the steps, armor clanging against the shields of his men. Stannis' sword cut the air where his head had been an instant before. "Coward!" Stannis snapped. "Pragmatist!" Jaime called back, already fitting himself into the front rank of the shield wall. "Unlike some, I do not leave my family undefended." Stannis surged forward, but Ned caught his arm. "No," Ned said. "Not here. Not up those steps." "They're escaping," Stannis snarled. "They're retreating," Ned corrected. "To stone and arrow slits and boiling oil. You'd throw men away on those stairs for a chance at one golden head." "For 3, Stannis said. "And the woman who birthed them." Robert sucked in a breath. Blood had soaked through his tunic now, a dark patch spreading at his side. "Leave them," he ground out. "For now." "Robert," Stannis began. "I said leave them," Robert roared. The effort doubled him over, one hand clamping to his side. "I've had enough bastard-born kings dying in this hall. I'll not add children to the pile today. We do this clean or not at all." Cersei's gaze met his across the thinning distance. For a heartbeat, the hall seemed to hold its breath again. Then the Lannister sergeant barked another order. The shield wall retreated in disciplined shuffle step, up and back, until they reached the great doors that led deeper into Maegor's Holdfast. "Archers!" someone shouted from behind. Ned looked up in time to see helmeted figures appear along the balcony that ran above the throne room doors. Lannister bowmen, bows already bent. "Shields!" Barristan cried. The first volley hissed down like rain. Northmen raised shields. Dragonstone men did the same. A few of the gold cloaks who had thrown in with the king scrambled for cover too late. Arrows punched into shoulders, thighs, cheeks. A man beside Ned screamed as a shaft went clean through his eye. "Fall back," Ned called. "Get under cover. Pull the wounded." Stannis cursed, but he moved with them, shield up, teeth bared. Behind, the Lannister guards withdrew through the door with mechanical precision, the last man dragging the heavy timber shut. The boom of it echoed through the hall like a final heartbeat. The battle did not end all at once. Pockets of fighting burned on. Gold cloaks overcommit to one side or the other. A rogue Lannister swinging in blind rage. A Northman who had seen a friend fall and would not stop until he had blood. But slowly, inexorably, the fury drained away. Men stepped back, panting, slick with sweat and blood. Those who could still stand looked around and seemed astonished to find themselves alive. The Iron Throne loomed over it all, indifferent as stone. Arya did not remember when Syrio appeared. One moment she was leaning over the railing, heart knocking against her ribs as she watched her father slip and rise, watched Jory die, watched the hall become a butcher's yard. The next there was a hand on the back of her collar, strong and sure, hauling her backwards so abruptly her feet left the floor. She hit the gallery tiles on her backside, breath whooshing out. "Little cat," Syrio said. His Bravosi accent striped the words. "You do not stand at the edge of a storm. It will blow you away." "Father," Arya gasped, scrambling up. Jaime." "I saw," Syrio said. His dark eyes were serious. "He still lives. And you? You will live if you move." He grabbed Sansa's wrist with his free hand. Sansa let out a small cry, jerked from where she had been frozen, fingers white around the railing. "Unhand her," Septa Mordane squawked. "You cannot just." "You will all die if you stand here," Syrio snapped, no trace of his usual lightness. "Come." "Now." The Septa faltered, looking toward the carnage below as another volley of arrows hissed down. One shaft clattered off the stone near the girl's feet, having glanced off the lower railing. "7 protect us," she whispered, then louder. Yes, we must go. Children, come." They went. Syrio hustled them away from the railing and down a narrow spiral stair that curved into the heart of the castle. The sounds of the throne room, shouts, screams, the ring of steel, echoed strangely in the stone, muffled and distorted. Sansa stumbled. Her face was white as milk, eyes huge. "Joffrey," she whispered. "Father called him," he said. "Save your breath," Syrio said. "You will need it to run." "I don't understand," Sansa said, voice cracking. "He's my prince. He's my—" "Not now, sweetling," Septa Mordane said, surprising Arya by sounding almost kind. "We must get you to your chambers." The Queen wants us as hostages," Arya blurted. Varys said, "Joffrey." Her words tangled. Everything she had overheard in the tunnels, everything she had seen today, swirled together in her head until she could not separate one fear from another. Syrio stopped so abruptly they nearly ran into him. They had reached a junction in the stair. Another, narrower passage branched off into deeper shadow. "You," he said to the Septa, "take the high road, to the Tower of the Hand. Find Lord Stark's men. Stay close to them. Do not open your door for anyone in lion colors." "And you?" Septa Mordane demanded. "Where will you be?" Syrio's teeth flashed. It was not a smile. "I will take the little one by a different road," he said. "She is too curious. She will wander if she is caged. Better she learns the castle's true ways." "I'm not a little one," Arya protested automatically. Sansa's hand clutched hers. "I'm not going anywhere without Arya," she said, tears still standing in her eyes. Syrio looked between them. "You will do as I say," he told them both. "Today is not the day to argue." Something in his tone cut through Sansa's fog. She straightened, swallowing hard. "I'll go," she said, "to Father's men. With Septa, Arya can. She never listens anyway." "A true thing," Syrio said dryly. "Go, little bird. And do not sing to any lions, no matter how sweetly they ask." Sansa flinched as if struck. For a heartbeat, her lower lip trembled. Then she lifted her chin in a fair imitation of her mother. "I won't," she said. "Come on, Septa." They vanished up the higher stair, skirts whispering, the Septa's prayers echoing. Syrio looked down at Arya. "You have your little sword?" he asked. She nodded, fingers going to needle's hilt. "Good," he said. "Today we walk in dark places. Remember." She finished with him. "Fear cuts deeper than swords." "Just so," Syrio said. "Come, little cat. We go hunting for shadows." When the last clang of steel faded, silence fell heavy as a shroud. It was an ugly silence, filled with the wet sound of men trying not to sob, of others choking on their own blood. The smell of it all, iron and sweat and fear, rose up to meet the cold, high air of the hall. "Clear the dead," Ned said. His voice felt older than his years. "And the wounded. Stark men first, then Stannis's, then the gold cloaks who stood with the king. The rest." He did not finish. He did not need to. The Northmen and Dragonstone men understood. They began their grim work, dragging bodies aside, checking pulses with quick, practiced hands. A few gold cloaks who had not turned on them pitched in, faces gray. Robert sat with his back against the carved throne chair, breath sawing in and out. His tunic was dark and sticky at the side. When Pycelle peeled it back, the old man went pale. "The wound has reopened, Your Grace," he quavered. "The flesh is torn." "Spare me your lecture," Robert groaned. "Can you stop the bleeding or not?" Yes, perhaps," Pycelle fluttered. "We must clean it again, Stitch." "Then do it," Robert snapped. His fingers dug into the arms of the chair until his knuckles whitened. "And if you tell me I must rest afterward, I'll have your beard." Another maester, the one from Derry who had tended him on the road, stepped forward briskly. "We will need hot water," he said. "Clean cloth, wine, strong wine. Hold him if he cries out." "I do not cry out," Robert muttered. He almost proved himself wrong when they set to work. Ned turned away as the maesters cut away soaked cloth and probed the wound with smoking ironed instruments. He had seen men gutted in battle, but something about this intimate reopening of flesh he'd thought already healing, made his stomach lurch. Stannis stood rigid, watching, his jaw clenched so hard a muscle jumped in his cheek. "This is what comes of delay," he said tightly. If we had moved sooner," Ned said, keeping his own voice low. "We might have met the same betrayal with less preparation. Or more. We will never know. We know only what is before us now." "What is before us?" Stannis said, eyes flicking to the sealed door to Maegor's Holdfast. "Is half a victory. We have the hall. We do not have the queen or her whelps. Or Jaime Lannister. We have the king," Ned said. "And the Lord Commander of his Kingsguard." Barristan Selmy stood nearby, his white cloak sodden with blood. None of it seemed to be his. He held his helmet under one arm, his thin face more lined than ever. "You said you are the king's man," Ned told him. "You proved it." "I swore my sword to the king," Barristan said simply. "Not to a queen, nor to a house, nor to a bag of gold." His gaze drifted over the hall, taking in the dead with an old soldier's weariness. "I have seen too many kings die to mistake loyalty to their crown for loyalty to their person." "Some would say you should have protected his wife as well," Stannis said. "And his supposed children. That is what the songs demand, is it not? White knights riding to rescue golden queens." "The songs say many things," Barristan replied. "The vows say others. I am not sworn to uphold lies." Stannis inclined his head a fraction. It was as close to praise as he gave. "The gold cloaks?" Barristan asked. Ned followed his gaze. Janos Slynt was being held at spear point by two Northmen, his hands bound behind him, lower face purpling where Barristan's earlier blow had landed. Blood dribbled from the corner of his mouth. One of his teeth lay on the floor nearby. "Bring him," Ned said. They dragged Slynt forward and shoved him to his knees. "My lord hand," Slynt mumbled around the swelling. "Your Grace, this were all a mistake. Things were confusing. My men, they thought—" "You ordered them to seize me," Stannis said, "and Lord Stark, and to protect the queen." "I was protecting the realm," Slynt babbled. "Didn't know what was true. Lions, wolves, stags. I just—" Robert grunted as the maesters tied off a stitch. Sweat stood on his brow, but his eyes were clear. "Janos Slynt," he said, "you sold the city's peace to lions. You tried to turn my own watch against me in my own hall. What do you think that's worth?" "Mercy," Slynt whispered. "Please, Your Grace." "I've served." "You've served yourself," Robert said, "like half the men in this damn city. The difference is your treachery nearly killed my friend and my heir." He looked at Stannis and Ned. "He dies here?" Ned asked. Robert's gaze swept the hall. The corpses, the blood, the watching eyes. "No," he said. "I'm not Ares to roast men on whims in my throne room. Take him to the yard. Fetch Ser Island." Do it before the day grows much older. Slynt blanched. No, Ned nodded to his men. Gag him, he said. I've heard enough. As they dragged Slynt away, he caught the eyes of a few of the gold cloaks who had stood undecided. Fear shone there. Perhaps Ned thought that fear would do what gold could not. We will need a new commander for the watch, Stannis said. Jacelyn Bywater, Barristan said without hesitating. He is no lord, no hand for politics, but he is a soldier and the men respect him. I have never seen him take more coin than his due. Send for him, Robert said. He winced as the maester prodded. Tell him his first duty is to keep the streets from turning into another of these. He gestured weakly at the hall. While I lie here leaking. And the queen? Stannis asked. His eyes were still on Maegor's door. We cannot leave her in there forever. No, Robert said. But we're not storming that. He nodded toward the sealed holdfast. With her and those children inside, Tywin would flay us and hang the skins over his gate. He'll do worse when he hears we've named his grandchildren bastards, Stannis said. Robert's mouth twisted. Let him come, then. At least that will be honest war. For now, we hold what we ha. We seal the Red Keep. No one in or out of Maegor's without my word. We treat the wounded. We send ravens. And then, his voice roughened. Then we see who still calls me king. He sagged back as the maesters finished their bloody work. Get him to his bed, Pycelle said, wringing his hands. He cannot stay here. He will catch a chill. I will not be carried like a babe, Robert protested. You will be carried like a king who nearly got himself killed trying to stand, Ned said. Don't be a bigger fool than you must. Robert glared at him. Then he laughed, a short, ragged bark. You're lucky I'm too weak to hit you, he said. Do as he says, he told Barristan. If I try to climb those steps, I'll probably trip and cut my own throat on that damned throne. Barristan nodded, already calling for a litter. As they bore the king out, the Iron Throne loomed over the bloodshed like a promise and a threat. The hall in Maegor's Holdfast was smaller than the throne room, but it felt more like a fortress. Thick walls, few windows, doors of heavy oak banded with iron, murder holes and arrow slits built into every approach. A castle within the castle, designed by a paranoid king who had not trusted his own courtyards. Cersei had always liked it here. Now she sat at a narrow table with a map of the Red Keep spread before her, a goblet of wine untouched at her elbow. Her hair had come slightly loose from its careful styling during the retreat. A few golden strands curled damp against her neck. You should have let me fight, Joffrey spat. He paced in front of the table like a caged cat, hands opening and closing. His doublet was splashed with other men's blood, not his own. Sandor Clegane had kept him behind the wall of shields with brutal efficiency. You would have died, Cersei said without looking up, and then all of this would have been for nothing. I'm not a child, he snarled. You are precisely that, Jaime said mildly from his place near the door. And a noisy one, Joffrey rounded on him. You! Enough, Cersei snapped. The word cracked across the hall. Tommen flinched where he sat with Myrcella and their septa, clutching her hand in both of his pudgy fists. Myrcella's face was still streaked with tears, but she sat very straight, trying to be brave. Joffrey, Cersei said, forcing her voice to soften. Come here. He hesitated, then stalked to the table, chin jutting. She took his hand in hers. You are my firstborn, she said. My lion cub. You will not throw your life away in a brawl with drunk Northmen and Stannis' rats. Your war is here. She tapped the map. On this board. His fingers twitched under hers. Father called me a bastard, he said. In front of everyone. He said I'm not his son. That I have no right. He is wounded, Cersei said, half mad with pain and the hand's lies. Men say many foolish things when they fear their own weakness. Her mouth tightened. He is still king only so long as we allow it. Joffrey's eyes brightened. We should kill him, he said. And the Stark too. And that smug Stannis. All of them. Then no one can say I'm not. Kill them with what? Jaime asked. We have 300 Lannister guards in the Holdfast, some knights, some archers. They have the rest of the castle. The gold cloaks are split. The small folk are watching. His lips curled faintly. I've seen siege enough to know which side has the advantage when one is penned up and the other holds the kitchens. We are not penned, Cersei said. We are secured. For now, Jaime said. His eyes went to the door again, as if he could see through it. Robert will not storm this place with the children inside. Stark would flinch. Stannis might not, but he will not command while Robert breathes. They will try to starve us out instead. We have stores, Cersei said. Arms, men, enough to hold until father comes. Jaime's expression did not change, but he shook his head slightly. Cersei, he said, I rode from the rock with enough men to cow a city, if the city was divided. That was before Robert found his balls again, before Stannis crawled out of his rock, before Stark stirred the north. Father is still in the west. Even if he rides at once, it will take weeks. We do not have weeks. She met his gaze. Then we must make them move first, she said. Force a mistake, a misstep. Joffrey jerked his hand from hers. I will not sit here like a frightened babe while that fat oaf calls me bastard, he said. I am Joffrey of House Lannister. Baratheon, Cersei said reflexively. Joffrey of House Lannister, he repeated stubbornly. I'll show them I'm not afraid. We should hang some of Stark's men from the walls, or send their heads to his wife. Then we'll see who. No one will see anything if you lose your head to an arrow the moment you show your face, Jaime said dryly. You want to be a king, boy? Learn when to wait. Joffrey flushed, but some of the wildness went out of his eyes at his uncle's tone. Cersei looked back at the map. They have the throne room, she said slowly. The yard, the kitchens. We have this holdfast and our honor. Stannis will want our heads. Stark will argue for wards and trials and mercy. Robert, her lips thinned. Robert will sway between them until pushed. Then we must push the right way, Jaime said. Precisely, Cersei replied. We still have friends in the castle. Men who fear us more than they fear northern honor. Pycelle for one. And Varys. He blows whichever way he thinks the wind will bring him most favor. She tapped a finger on the map again. And Baelish. Jaime's brows rose. You trust Littlefinger? I do not trust him, she said. I know him. He will back whatever side promises him more chaos to climb. If Stark and Stannis begin to quarrel, he will widen the crack. And if they do not? Jaime asked. Her smile was thin. Then we widen it ourselves. She lifted her goblet at last and took a swallow of wine. It burned going down. The burn steadied her. Send word to father, she said. Everything that has happened. Tell him Robert lives but is wounded, that Stannis is here, that Stark has turned his hand to butchery. He will know what to do. And here? Jaime asked. Now? She looked up at the thick stone around them. Fortress, yes, but also a cage. We hold, she said. We wait. And when they come to our door with talk of terms and mercy and, for the good of the realm, we bite. Joffrey smiled then. For the first time since they'd fled the throne room, it looked real. I can do that, he said. The council chamber tasted of smoke and fatigue. They had moved Robert there after the maesters declared him fit to sit, if not to walk far. He looked as if a stiff wind could knock him down, but his eyes were clearer than Ned had seen them in years. Let's be about it, Robert said. Before I fall over. They had already spoken of Slynt. His fate was sealed, awaiting only the sword stroke. Now they turned to the rest. We cannot keep Cersei and her brood penned in Maegor's forever, Stannis said. We must demand their surrender. If they refuse, we take the holdfast by storm. And set the red keep alight, Baelish said lightly. All very dramatic. The singers will love it. The small folk, less so. The small folk will quiet themselves when the streets stop smelling of fear. Stannis snapped. They will quiet themselves when they have bread, Varys interjected mildly. And when men with swords stop using their alleys as back roads to their wars. Robert rubbed his forehead. One problem at a time, he said. First, these three. He tapped the list of names Ned had written. Janos Slynt, for treason. Pycelle, for playing both sides with my blood. And, God's help me, maybe even Varys and Baelish, for knowing everything and saying nothing. Your grace wounds me, Baelish said, putting a hand theatrically to his chest. I have done nothing but serve the crown's coffers. Without me, they would be empty. They are empty, Stannis said. You just made the whole look smaller. Baelish's eyes glittered. We can speak of that another time, Lord Stannis. Though if you wish to see just how many loans stand in your name now that you are heir. Enough, Ned said. He was very tired. This is not the moment to haggle over interest. Robert looked at Pycelle. You knew, he said, about the children. About Cersei and Jaime. You must have. You've sat in this castle 40 years. You see everything. Pycelle's beard trembled. Your Grace, I knew only that your late hand asked after such things, he said. He came to me for the book. I told him what I knew. When he died, I thought it kinder not to. Kindness, Stannis scoffed. Jon Arryn died because he asked questions, Ned said flatly. You sat by and let it happen. I am but a humble maester, Pycelle protested. I serve the realm, the king. You served yourself, Robert said. Like Slynt, like half these leeches. He stared at the old man a long moment. Perhaps he saw Ares there and Jon Arryn and all the other ghosts that haunted these walls. Strip him, Robert said at last. Send him back to the citadel. Let them deal with their own. We'll have a younger man who can climb stairs without wheezing. Pycelle sagged as if the weight of his chain had suddenly grown. For a moment, Ned thought he might plead. Then he bowed, stiffly. As you command, your grace, he said. Tears stood in his eyes. Whether for lost influence or lost pretense, Ned could not say. And the others? Varys asked softly. Baelish smiled faintly. Yes, he said. What of us? Ned met Robert's gaze. We need them, he said reluctantly. For now, Varys's birds hear what we do not. Baelish holds the purse strings. Throw them out and we blind ourselves in the middle of a storm. Stannis snorted. Better blind than led by those who profit from the fog. You would have us govern with men alone? Ned asked. No spies, no coinmasters, no maesters, no watch? Honor makes a poor bread, Stannis. It makes a better foundation than lies. Stannis shot back. Robert let them bicker a moment, then raised a hand. Varys stays, he said. Baelish stays, for now. But hear me, he added, eyes hardening as they both inclined their heads. If I sniff the slightest whiff of treachery from either of you again, I'll not bother with polite trials. I'll have your heads and send what's left of you to whatever god you fancy. Varys bowed lower. You are as just as you are strong, your grace, he murmured. Baelish's smile did not reach his eyes. I shall endeavor to keep my neck uninteresting, he said. We also need ravens, Ned said. To the north, to the Vale, to the Riverlands and the Reach. They must hear Robert's will and the charges against Cersei before she can send her own stories. Renly is already telling his own stories, Stannis said. We must counter them with steel when the time comes. And Tywin? Robert asked. What do we send to the Rock? A lie or a truth? Stannis said. Those are our choices. Ned thought of Tywin's letter, surely en route already of Cersei's report. He thought of Gregor Clegane sharpening his sword. Tell him the truth, Ned said. That you live, that Stannis is named heir, that Cersei is under guard, that his grandchildren's claims are in question but their lives are not. If we conceal, he will assume the worst. He will assume the worst anyway, Stannis said. Perhaps, Ned said, but it costs little to send a true raven. Robert huffed. Write it, he said. Say it plain. If he wants war, he won't need our lies for an excuse. And Maegor's Holdfast? Baratheon asked. What shall we do there, your grace? Robert leaned back, wincing. We do as we would at any siege, he said. We surround it. We cut off food and water as we can without starving our own men. We watch, we wait, and we offer terms. Terms, Stannis repeated. Aye, Robert said. Terms. Cersei yields herself to stand trial. The children come out as wards, scattered to houses I trust. Jaime gives up his sword and takes the black. If she accepts, we avoid more blood. If she refuses, his eyes went cold. Then we do as you wish and take the place by storm. But the choice will be hers. Stannis looked as if he'd swallowed something sour. You would trust her to abide by any agreement? He asked. No, Robert said. But giving her terms means when we break them, the realm will see who reached for mercy and who spat on it. He glanced at Ned. That matters. You keep telling me. It does, Ned said. Stannis shook his head, but he held his tongue. One more matter, Robert said. The boy in the forge, Gendry, and the rest of my bastards. His gaze flicked to Ned. You promised to see them safe. I did, Ned said. Then do it, Robert said. Quietly, get them out of the city before Tywin sends someone sharper than Slynt to tidy loose ends. Put them north if you must, or in the Vale, anywhere but here. Ned inclined his head. I will see it done. Good, Robert said. He closed his eyes for a moment, more from exhaustion than pain. Now get out, all of you, before I collapse and you have to carry me like some maiden swooning at a feast. Varys and Baelish withdrew in a rustle of silk. Pycelle tottered after them, already looking smaller without the weight of his chain. Baratheon bowed and followed. Only Stannis lingered. You are too soft, he said quietly when the others were gone. And you are too hard, Robert replied without opening his eyes. Between us, perhaps we make one decent king. He cracked one eye open. Don't make me regret naming you heir, brother, he said. The realm is already too full of things I regret. The wolf and the stag stand together, Baelish said lightly. For now. Varys' steps were silent on the stone. Until the next storm, he said. The Baratheons have never been known for their patience. And Starks are not known for flexibility, Baelish added. I give it a week before they are at each other's throats over some matter of necessary harshness versus honorable restraint. You underestimate the bond between them, Varys said. And you overestimate it, Baelish replied. You see men as pieces on a board. I see them as men. Stannis has been slighted too many times to stomach playing second to anyone, even his brother. Stark has an affection for Robert that will blind him to Stannis' better grasp of strategy. It is a lovely recipe for disaster. And you like disasters, Varys said with a trace of weariness. I like opportunities, Baelish corrected. Disaster is merely the richest soil. They rounded a corner. A pair of servants flattened themselves against the wall to let them pass, eyes lowered. Pycelle is finished, Varys said. The Citadel will recall him and send some younger link polisher. It will change nothing. It will make Robert feel as if he has done something meaningful, Baelish said. That is something. And Slynt? Varys asked. Slynt will lose his head, Baelish said. A pity. Men like him are useful. Predictable so long as you know how to fill their purses. Predictably treacherous, Varys murmured. Baelish shrugged. All men are treacherous, he said. Some just have the courtesy to name their price. They passed an alcove where a boy in livery was scrubbing blood from the flagstones. The stains in the joints of the stone were darker, more stubborn. The city will not soon forget this day, Varys said softly. Nor will the songs, Baelish said. The day the king called his own son bastard before the court. The day the throne room ran red. The day Stannis Baratheon strode in from Dragonstone like some vengeful ghost. He smiled faintly. Minstrels must be wetting themselves. They will need to keep their tongues cautious, Varys said. The wrong word could mean the wrong lord's displeasure. Displeasure can be harnessed, Baelish said. Watch which songs are banned and which are merely frowned upon. That will tell you more about where power truly sits than any council. Varys glanced at him. And where do you think it sits now? Baelish's eyes went distant. With a wounded king whose strength returns in fits, he said. With a hard brother eager to take the reins. With a northern hand who will not bend. With a queen behind thick walls and a grandsire sitting on a mountain of gold and grudges. With another brother riding somewhere between here and Highgarden with dreams in his head. And across the sea? Varys asked. Baelish smirked. Always you and your dragons. They are not my dragons, Varys said. I merely keep track. Baelish waved a languid hand. Across the sea they can have as many dragons as they like, he said. Until they learn to fly across the narrow sea and shit fire on our ships, they are someone else's problem. Here, now, I care about which stag the small folk are betting on. My coin, for now, is on the one with the crown still on his head. Robert, Varys said. Or Stannis wearing his skin? Baelish smiled. We shall see, he said. In the meantime, dear Varys, let us enjoy the rare sight of a lion in a cage. It does not happen often. Caged lions are dangerous, Varys said. So are hungry wolves, Baelish replied. I intend to stay well-fed. Winterfell felt farther from King's Landing than ever. Snow whispered down in the courtyard, laying a thin white veil over the ancient stones. Inside the great hall, the air was warm from the central hearth. Shadows of men and beasts danced on the walls. Catelyn Stark held the raven's letter in hands that did not quite tremble. The wax seal of her husband's hand hung broken from the bottom. Maester Luwin watched her with worried eyes. Robb stood taut at her side, one hand on the back of her chair. He lives, Catelyn said. She said it first because that mattered more than any ink on parchment. Your father lives. Robb's breath left him in a rush he clearly had not realized he was holding. Thank the gods, he said. What happened? The letter. She smoothed the parchment. The words swam for a moment, then steadied. Ned had written in his usual way. Spare, precise, leaving out anything that could not be trusted to raven wings. There was treachery, Catelyn said. Janos Slynt turned the gold cloaks on your father and the king in the throne room. Cersei's men fought. Some of Lord Stark's household fell. Her voice tightened briefly. Jory, others. Robb's jaw clenched. Jory Castle had taught him to hold a sword, had laughed with him in the yard. Lannisters, he said, the word an exhale of contempt. Stannis Baratheon has come to King's Landing. Catelyn went on. Robert named him heir. The queen and her children are shut up in Maegor's Holdfast. The city is tense. Tense? Robb repeated. That's one word for it. Catelyn's eyes traced a later line. He asks us to be ready, she said softly. If war comes, if Tywin rides, he does not call the banners. Not yet, but he says we must prepare the north for storm. Robb looked toward the window. Snowflakes tapped against the glass. We can't just sit, he said. We should ride south. Bring the banners before they ask. Show father they don't stand alone. And leave our lands unguarded if the Ironborn grow bold again? Luwin asked gently. Or if some other threat comes. The neck is narrow, but not impenetrable. The south is a snarl of lions and stags and wolves. Better to watch which way the first blood flows. Robb frowned. At barely 16, he already had some of his father's stillness, his mother's intensity. They have spilled blood already, he said. In the throne room, our own. Jory, we do not know yet whether that blood will wash away in an afternoon's outrage, Luwin said, or whether it will soak into the earth and call for more. Your father is there. He will do what he can to keep the peace. And if he cannot? Robb asked. Catelyn folded the letter carefully. Then we will call the banners, she said. If the time comes. We will not let the Lannisters pick at the north while our men die far from home. But we will not rush to war on anger alone. Your father asks us to be ready, not reckless. Robb's hand tightened on the chair. Every day we wait, they strengthen, he said. Tywin sharpens his lion's claws. Renly gathers Tyrell roses. Father has Stannis and a wounded king and half a city that hates the sight of northern furs. Every day we wait, Catelyn said. We keep our men with their families. We keep the harvest in the fields, not trampled under hooves. We give your father time to do what he has always done best. Hold to what is right in the teeth of a storm. Robb looked at her, then at Luwin. At last he nodded, slow and reluctant. We at least strengthen our own walls, he said. Drill the men. Quietly call in the nearest bannermen under some pretext. If nothing else, the Umbers and the Manderleys deserve warning that Southron madness may be spreading. Wise, Luwin said. I will write the letters. Catelyn touched the parchment again, fingers lingering on Ned's signature. Your father says to watch the boys, she said. Bran, Rickon. Her voice softened. And you, he says, tell Robb to remember he is a Stark, not a Southron lord chasing glory. Robb flushed. I don't want glory, he said. I want him home. So do I, Catelyn said. She folded the letter and tucked it into her sleeve, near her heart. So do I. The second raven did not surprise Tywin. It offended him. He broke Cersei's seal with the same impassive care as before, but Kevin saw the way his fingers briefly tightened on the parchment as he read. She calls it a mockery of justice, Kevin said after a moment, peering at the cramped script. Robert naming Stannis heir. Stark reading out their sins before the court. The children called into question. Into question, Tywin repeated, voice like a blade drawn half from the sheath. Kevin cleared his throat. She says Robert will not storm Maegor's Holdfast yet, that he offers terms, that Jaime lives, but is caged, Tywin said. As they are. He folded the letter. In the candlelight, his face looked carved from pale stone. They have named my grandchildren bastards, he said, before lords and knights and 100 gossiping parasites. The tale will be on every road within a fortnight. That cannot stand. If we ride at once, Kevin began. If we ride at once, Tywin said. We ride into a city with a living king, 2 brothers of his line, and a hand who has already shown he can blood the lions in their own den. We would be fighting the crown itself, not merely Stark. We did that once, Kevin said quietly, and fared well. We rode with a stag then, not against him, Tywin said, and Ares had burned away all his allies. Robert has found some of his back. He has Stannis. He has Stark. He has northern honor and Dragonstone stubbornness propping up his drunk bones. Kevin looked at the map. The mountain has ridden, he said. As you ordered. Reports already come from the Trident. Burned villages. Skulls on spikes. The Tullus cry to the crown for justice. Good, Tywin said. Let them cry. He moved a lion pin closer to Riverrun. Stark will feel that pull, he said. As hand, he must answer when lords cry for the king's justice. If he sends men to the Riverlands, he divides his strength. If he does not, the Tullus will curse his name and look elsewhere for protectors. And in the meantime? Kevin asked. In the meantime, Tywin said, folding his hands. We play for time. Cersei must hold. Jaime must live. Joffrey must not be foolish enough to show himself as anything but a wronged prince. If they can keep Maegors for a month, perhaps 2, the board may look different. He looked at the unopened tankard of ale, then pushed it aside. Write to Cersei, he said. Tell her this, hold your tongue in public. Hold your walls with whatever steel and wit you possess. Do not kill Robert unless you can be sure of killing Stannis and Stark in the same stroke. Do not let the boy fly into rages that make him look the monster Stark wishes to paint. If an opportunity comes to escape the city with the children, take it only if the road is secured by our men. And if the worst comes, he paused, the candlelight catching in his pale green eyes. "Tell her that Lannisters have survived worse storms than this," he said, "and that no matter how dark it seems, I am not yet dead." Kevin nodded, already reaching for parchment. "And the Riverlands?" he asked. "We continue," Tywin said. "More raids, more fire, more rumor of lions beyond the king's leashes." He moved another lion across the map. "Every village that burns pushes this realm closer to the breaking point. When it breaks, we will be there with an army that has not yet exhausted itself in capital squabbles." Kevin hesitated. "And if the small folk curse us as monsters?" he asked. "If children learn to fear the lion more than the wolf or the stag?" Tywin's mouth barely moved. "Fear," he said, "is a useful story." The sun bled out behind the city, leaving the sky a bruise. From the battlements, Maegor's Holdfast looked deceptively quiet. No banners flew from its walls now. Cersei had ordered the royal standard taken down at once. Torches glowed along its battlements, tiny, defiant stars. Below, a ring of men encircled it, Northmen in faded cloaks, a few of Stannis' Dragonstone men, and columns of gold cloaks under new officers. Jacelyn Bywater had taken command with a grim efficiency that pleased Ned. Lines were drawn, no one in or out without a writ bearing Robert's seal or Ned's hand. "They still have water from their own cisterns," Stannis said, eyes narrowed. "And food. Enough for weeks, months if they ration." "They cannot ration steel," Ned said. "Every day they sit in there, their influence shrinks. The court sees who holds the yard. The small folk see who holds the gates. Political sieges can be won faster than physical ones sometimes." Stannis snorted. "You sound like a maester." "I married one," Ned said. "She cured me of some northern short-sightedness." Stannis' gaze flicked to him, then back to the Holdfast. "You spoke of terms," he said. "Have you drafted them?" "I have," Ned said. He held a folded parchment in his hand. The words were stark and plain. "Cersei Lannister," it began. "By command of King Robert of House Baratheon, you are charged with treason against the crown and adultery. You are ordered to yield yourself into custody to be tried in open court. The children Joffrey, Myrcella, and Tommen are ordered to be surrendered into the custody of the crown as wards." It went on to specify that their lives were guaranteed, that they would be granted comfortable quarters, tutors, a future, so long as they made no claim to the throne and took such marriages as the crown decreed. "It is more mercy than they deserve," Stannis said when Ned finished reading. "It is more mercy than you would show," Ned replied. "Which is precisely why Robert insisted on these terms. If Cersei refuses, she damns herself in the eyes of any who still waver." "She does not care for eyes," Stannis said. "Only for her own reflection." "Perhaps," Ned said, "but others care. There are still lords in this city who are uncertain. There are still gold cloaks watching to see which way the wind blows. This letter is a weather vane." "And if she accepts?" Stannis asked. "Then we avoid burning children in their beds," Ned said. Stannis' jaw clenched. "You think me so monstrous," he said. "That I would. I think you capable of harsh choices," Ned said. "Sometimes that is necessary. Sometimes it is not. I would avoid forcing you to it where I can." Stannis exhaled, a harsh, humorless breath. "I have no love for roasting children," he said. "I merely know that failure to uproot rot completely can doom a tree. Leaving these three alive, even caged, will cause trouble later." "Perhaps," Ned said. "Perhaps we will cross that bridge when we must. Until then, they are innocents born of others' sins. I will not stain the North's honor or yours with their blood while there is another path." Stannis studied him a moment. "You and I will quarrel," he said finally, "over justice, over mercy, over where one ends and the other begins." "We are quarreling already," Ned said. Stannis' mouth twitched. It might have been the ghost of a smile. "Send your letter," he said. "Give her choice. When she throws it back in our faces, you will at least have the solace of saying you tried." Ned nodded. He turned and beckoned to a waiting guard. "Take this to Maegor's," he said. "White flag, no arms. Hand it to the first man who will take it and carry the words that the king demands an answer by sunrise." The guard nodded, tucking the letter into his belt pouch. He picked up a white cloth tied to a pole and headed down. As he went, Ned looked out over the city. Beyond the walls of the Red Keep, King's Landing sprawled, its roofs a patchwork of tile and thatch. Smoke from 1,000 hearths rose into the evening air. Somewhere in that tangle, Gendry was hammering at an anvil. Varys's little birds were whispering. Men were betting in taverns on which lord would come out on top. "Do you ever think," Ned said quietly, "that all of this will mean nothing when winter truly comes?" Stannis's gaze slid northward, toward where the wall lay unseen under faraway stars. "Yes," he said, "and yet we are men. We are stuck playing at crowns while shadows gather, until something forces us to look up." Ned thought of Arya's tale of Varys and Illyrio, of dragons and darkness in the far north. "Perhaps," he said, "that something is closer than we think." Across the narrow sea, the news arrived late and twisted, as news always did. Daenerys Targaryen sat cross-legged on the layered rugs of her tent, the lamplight painting her silver hair in gold. The air smelled of horse and incense and the faint tang of the strange spiced wine her handmaids had been sharing in hushed giggles. Ser Jorah Mormont knelt beside the doorway, the scroll in his scarred hand. His brow furrowed as he translated, line by clumsy line, the words written in some Pentoshi factor's neat script. "And so it is said in the free cities," he read, "that the usurper lives still, though badly wounded by a hunting boar, that his brothers circle him like wolves, that the queen he took to wife has been named adulteress and traitor in the sight of her own court." Daenerys's hand went unconsciously to her belly. The child within her, if the wise women were right, was no bigger than her thumb yet. A prince or princess who would never see the Red Keep their father had lost. "Khal Drogo?" she said quietly. "What do they say of him?" Jorah hesitated, then shook his head. "Nothing, Khaleesi. This letter is full of west and south. It says the Stag's brothers sharpen their antlers. One in the capital, one in the Reach. It says Lion's Rage. It says the wolf from the north stands between them, trying to keep the peace." "A wolf," Daenerys murmured. She had never seen a wolf, save in the sigils on old maps. In her mind's eye, they were like the dogs that ran with the Khalasar, only larger, their eyes full of lonely snow. "What does it say of dragons?" she asked. Jorah glanced toward the chest where her 3 eggs lay. "Nothing, Khaleesi," he said. "They still believe dragons are dead." "Are they?" she asked softly. Jorah had no answer. Drogo, who had been sitting in thoughtful silence, watching the play of lamplight on his wife's face rather than listening to Jorah's clumsy Westerosi, shifted. His braids slid over his shoulder, bells chiming faintly. "You look troubled, moon of my life," he said in Dothraki. She turned to him, switching tongues as easily as she had learned to do since her marriage. "The usurper lives," she said. "My brother's death was not enough to bring me home." Drogo's mouth curled in faint disdain. "The usurper is a man with a soft belly and a heavy hammer," he said. "He is far across the poison water. We will cross when our son is ready. Whether he lives or dies now is wind." "To you," Daenerys said. "To me, my brother died for a promise. You swore to give me my father's throne when the time was right." Drogo nodded once. "I swore," he said. "Is this a sign?" she asked. "These stags fighting one another, lions and wolves biting. A river of blood in the city where my mother died. Jorah says that when the usurper dies, the realm will tear itself apart. Perhaps that makes it weaker." Jorah cleared his throat. "Khaleesi," he said carefully, "weakness in the 7 kingdoms can be good for us. A realm at peace would be a harder one to reclaim. A realm at war, men tire of fighting. They look for strong leaders. Old loyalties shake loose. When the enemy's camp burns, one should be ready to strike," Drogo agreed. "But not too soon." A Khal who charges into a fire loses his hair and his khalasar both. Daenerys looked back at the scroll. Somewhere in King's Landing, a king she had never met fought for his life against a wife who had helped kill her father. A wolf she had never seen stood in a room her family had once ruled, arguing for mercy for children born of his enemies' sins. A man who called himself her family's murderer now fought lions and traitors to keep his own crude crown. The world moved. She looked at the eggs in the chest. In the lamplight, for an instant, she thought she saw a faint glow beneath the stone, like embers under ash. It might have been a trick of her eyes. "Tell me more," she said to Yora. "Everything the traitors say, every rumor. I would know the shape of the realm I am meant to rule." Yora bowed his head. "As you wish, Khaleesi." Outside, horses whickered. Fires crackled. Beneath Daenerys's hand, the child stirred. A flutter, like the brush of a dragon's wing.